We all search for that spark which fuels our desire to fully engage in our lives. We look for the courage to experience moments where we can come alive instead of watching life pass us by. You're listening to the Front Row Factor, leaving fear and insecurity behind by exploring stories of top performers that are living life in the front row. Get ready to stand up, step up, and live it up with your host, John Vroman.
What's up, and welcome to the Front Row Factor. This is John Vroman. I'm so excited that you're with me today. If you're brand new, welcome. And if you're back for more, man, I'm so excited that you are here. Well, I got to tell you, this show is all about talking to amazing people who are living life in the front row, up front, fully engaged. And today is no exception. We're talking with Carey Smolensky, who is the author of a brand new book, Living Life with Passion and Helping Others. And I will tell you that I could go on for an hour about Carey. I've known him for over a decade. He's a founding board member for Front Row Foundation. And this is a guy who is really living big and giving big. All the way back to his high school days, he went all in. We'll talk about it in the interview, but he really stepped up big in high school and started his own company, which has now grown to a very successful entertainment and event production company out of Chicago, CSP Worldwide. It's won numerous awards. And this is a guy who is being great in so many areas of his life. He's a wonderful husband. He's a great dad, a successful businessman, and he gives big. And I've seen this not only to our charity, but so many other groups. He's entertained more than 1 million people over the last 35 years. And I will tell you, somebody I respect tremendously. In this interview today, we talk about moving our lives from a savings place to a sharing place, being open in contribution. We talk about his book and all the principles and great stories that he shares. I can't even get into it all with you now, but I can tell you, this is a guy who's got music videos, songs, he's acted in movies. He won Mr. America. I'm not joking. Literally, we're going to get into it today. It's awesome. We talk about overcoming fear and acting with courage, which he does exceptionally well, and about how legacy is really about sharing what you've learned, not what you've earned. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoy my interview with Carey Smolensky, author of the brand new book, Living Life with Passion and Helping Others. Here we go.
Carey Smolensky, what's up, buddy?
John, excellent to speak with you again.
Dude, thanks for joining us today. I wanted to take a moment and first of all, congratulate you. The book
Thank you.
is out, man. The book is out. It showed up yesterday. I opened it up. I was so excited. I showed it to Tatiana. And as I shared with you already, man, I sat down this morning and I devoured the entire thing for my miracle morning, and it was awesome. So just
Excellent.
great stuff, man. Congrats. How does it feel?
It feels awesome. I'm really, really excited about it, and it's been an interesting journey.
Dude, well, what I love about, and you wrote this in the book, you talk about when you say you're going to do something, your word is your bond. And when I've grown to accept, understand, and know this about you, that if Carey says he's going to do something, man, it is going to happen. I'm super excited that you got the book out, and I know it's going to help lots of people. I couldn't help, buddy, but when I'm reading the book, thinking about some of my favorite moments with you, like for those listening, I don't even know how I would sum this up, but Carey's working at an event with us, and we're going to a hotel that night with a big group that was at this event. And we decide that we're all going to put sunglasses on and walk you into the hotel like we're your bodyguards.
It was the arrival of Smopo.
The arrival of Smopo. Dude, I remember standing there having people look at us like we were surrounding you. And it was great, man. I remember singing one of your songs in our car. We had a big sing-along, and that was amazing. And then one of my favorite moments with you, Carey, that I was reminded of as I was reading the book was when I was at your home, and I was with your wife, your daughter, and her new husband sitting in your living room, and we're watching video, her wedding. And, her husband, your daughter's husband, Joe, goes and gets a box of tissues without being asked because he knows what's coming. And that is tears of joy, man, about you wrote your daughter an incredible song. And I loved, if I can say this without it sounding odd, is I loved watching your family tear up with joy because of this moment that you've created. So
I appreciate that.
I just share a little bit of that to kind of preface this call with the group of what type of guy you are and how much I care about you. And we've known each other for a long time. So, dude, let's dig in. Let's talk about your life a little bit. I want to give people some context and bring people up to the present moment. I know this is always hard, but give us the 3-minute Carey Smolensky life story.
Wow. So my life is exciting because I want to make it exciting. I truly live it with passion, and passion has always been an underlying factor in everything I've done. And my business, which is event production, entertainment, everything from producing global conferences to handling a bar mitzvah with my dancers and really rocking it out with our musicians. And I just love everything about life. So my story, if you were to put it down into a couple minutes, is really something that started my sophomore year of high school, because I don't even remember my freshman year. I wasn't involved in anything. I didn't do anything. And something just sparked me to get involved in the radio station, to get involved in wrestling and swimming and really individual sports where I didn't have to rely on anyone else. It was up to me whether I would succeed or fail. And I've learned very quickly that failing is an important part of growth. And I think everything that I've done in life has been to push my boundaries and really push myself physically, mentally, emotionally. And that's why I'd love to be on Survivor one day. And that's something I've been trying to do for years. But I think I'm always trying to test myself, not to prove anything, but just to experience all that life has to offer. So through high school, I got involved in sports, and college, I was thinking I wanted to go into dentistry. And at the same time, I was DJing when I started my business in high school. So I started DJing and doing events to make money through high school and college. And really, that was one of my first passions that developed into my current business, which expanded into global event production. So you never know where things start, the journey it takes, and where it can end. And along the way, I decided to compete for a competition called the United States Men's Pageant. And in 1984, I was selected to be the first Mr. United States. And that was a whole separate aspect, which helped my modeling and acting career. And now I've gotten back to that, the modeling and acting, about 5 years ago. And I'm just at a point in life after being married for just about 28 years and having 2 amazing children. And one of them, as you mentioned, Rachel just got married. And life changes, and I think I get very bored with things that are stagnant, and I can never see myself doing the same thing. Even in my business, we're always evolving and coming up with new technology, new ways to do things. So I think that my life is truly a love of passion. And as I get into the book and I talk about my year-long journey from December 8th, 2014 to December 8th, 2015, literally a year from one flight to another, coming back from San Diego after experiencing the Best Year Ever Blueprint Conference and making new contacts and developing new relationships and really reflecting on what's important in life. I've had that year to create this book, and I'm really proud of it because it shares my life. It shares what's important to me, and I really wanted to inspire others, and that's my goal.
That's awesome. Carey, I want to get into the book because I know this is the newest project, and it's something that we're both excited to talk about. Let me ask you this. Why a book? Why did you want to write it? Who is it for? What was the driving force behind this project?
Great question, because I've saved things throughout my life, and I still have my beer can collection from high school. Haven't looked at it in decades, but it's still somewhere in boxes saved. And I tend to have experienced a lot of things in life that I found I've been saving. I haven't been sharing. And one of the aspects in the book, I talk about mortality sucks. And, I feel it's such a waste that we're only here for a certain amount of time. So all of these experiences that I've gathered and the amazing people that I've met and done business with and crossed paths with, I really wanted to share the stories, and I really wanted to use the stories to inspire others, to make a difference in people's lives. And I think that there's something to be said from learning on your own, but there's also something that you can garner from other people's experiences and making a little bit more of a fast track to an end result or an answer to a challenge. So I felt that the book was the best vehicle to convey the message so that I have the story put in front of people. I am sharing stories of passion with other people as well, as you know, with Front Row Foundation, which we can get into later. But I'm excited about sharing it, and the book became the vehicle to tell the story, to give calls to action, to show ways to identify your true passions in life, and in ways to implement them, and ways to get rid of the things that may be negative in your life that are holding you back from your true potential. And, we always talk about stages in life, and I found that although I've had my job, which turned into a career, which helped identify a calling, those progressions are things that I share in the book as well.
I love this idea of moving from saving to sharing. And it's funny when you talk about collecting things. Did you say beer cans?
I have beer cans, stamp collections, coin collections. I collected everything. I even have a sticker collection from when I was a kid.
That's awesome. You and Tatiana would get along so well. She loves to collect things. So here's a question. I normally reserve this one for the end, Carey, but I have to ask it now. Of all your collections, what do you think is the most interesting? What's the most unique thing that you have collected?
So I just have to interject here for your audience. John Vroman is one of the top 3 people that I know in life that comes up with amazing questions. And that is definitely one of them. And, the whole point of asking something like that, as far as collecting, I think experiences. I think it's life. It's a passion for living it to its fullest and not wasting a moment. So it's not any one collection, but it's memories. It's learning from doing, not just sitting in the back seat, but living your life in the front row.
Yeah. That's so cool. And I should tell everybody also that we have many titles for many people in the organization of Front Row Foundation, and most of our listeners are familiar with it. If you're brand new to our show, Front Row Foundation is an organization that puts children and adults in the front row of their favorite live event. And we create a day that becomes a metaphor for how we can live the rest of our lives, or as we call it, living life in the front row. And Carey, you've been a founding board member. You've been there since the get-go, and a portion of all of your book proceeds are going to go to support the charity. I think that's awesome. And so you and I have lots of shared experiences. I've watched you experience life to the fullest. One of the things and you brought up the idea of asking questions, and I've been obsessed with asking great questions for many years now, to myself and to others. One of my questions for you is, so you're this guy that lives this incredible life. You dabble in so many different things because you've decided that passion, right, is the thing that you're an expert in so many ways, right? And I think that's what's great. Now, you have lots of expertise in lots of different areas. I mean, truly, your company is vast and has many different departments and different services that it provides. And, I turn around, I open up Facebook, and you're rappelling down a building, and then you're, dude, I mean, you're the first Mr. America. Literally, it goes on. You made a movie about about cigars, right?
Yes, it is.
You made a movie about cigars. You have songs on, iTunes. You have music videos. Dude, it goes on and on and on. What I think is so unique about this book and about you, Carey, and what I've talked about with my wife, and I've written this on your review on Amazon, is that one of the things that you do is that you say yes so well to life. I mean, you are somebody that courageously attacks life. And that's something that inspires me. I really appreciate that. At the core of that sometimes is a question that we ask ourselves, right? And it's been referred to by different people in different ways. One of my great coaches in life, Tony Robbins, calls that your primary question. What's one question you ask yourself more than any other question? And so my question for you is this. Is there a question for the great Carey Smolensky that's at the core of all of this passion and action and courageous experience creating, in your life? Is there a question that starts that sparks that? And I don't know if that's something you've ever thought of, but is there a question at the core that sparks all this?
Well, if there was, it would be how to find immortality. And that seems crazy, but where I'm going with that is I honestly believe life is too short. And I even talk about this in the book, where I've met people who have been beaten down by life, who have attitudes that, well, it's been enough, and after a certain number of years, enough is enough. I could never imagine enough being enough. Now, obviously, when there's health issues and there's mental issues, which have affected my life very closely with my mother, I'm very aware of those situations. But as long as you are fully capable to experience life in its fullest, I would never want that to end. So a lot of that drives my passion for doing things, because I always want to experience. There's so much. And I think it really goes to your own life experience. I think until people are in their mid-30s or almost up to their 40s, they don't engage themselves as fully as they could. They don't really apply their full potential. And for me, I didn't even get into urban athlons and half marathons and pushing myself in different physical competitions until my late 30s. And it was just something that it was another test. And I think where that stems from is, as we go through high school, there's clubs and there's sports and there's all these other things that later in life we can choose to do. But sometimes we get wrapped up in our businesses. We get wrapped up in life and marriage and our kids, and we put things on the back burner. And what I realized, what I was really missing was the challenge physically, mentally, emotionally. And those are the things that I brought back later. So really, my questions all stem from answers to life and why we're only here for a certain period of time and those types of things. And that, I think, is what drives my passion for living life to its fullest.
So you say mortality sucks. That's the heading of one of the chapters, right?
Correct.
So my question is, do you also see it as that mortality is this great thing because it provides urgency for today?
There are definitely positives, because the urgency is definitely created because you only have a certain amount of time to do things. But I also think it's about choices, because sometimes people think they're too young to do something. Sometimes they say they're too old to do something, and it never gets done. And the worst thing you can do is come to the end of your life and have regret for things you haven't accomplished or things you wanted to do. I would rather fail over and over at things than never having tried. And those are the things where it builds character, and it's not about winning or losing or chalking up experiences. It's about life lessons and really being alive.
Carey, I'm going to go back a little bit in the interview, because you said something about when you were in high school. I think you said when you were a freshman, you were checked out, and in 10th grade, maybe as your sophomore year, you went all in. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Absolutely. I honestly, my freshman year of high school is a blur, because I was probably just figuring out what I wanted to do with my life and my high school life at that point. And then I started becoming involved in everything, and I found my passions at that point, and that led me on the path to where I am today.
Do you know, you said there was a spark. Do you remember what happened? Did you read something, hear something? Was it like a lightning bolt out of the sky?
It was like a light switch. I mean, I just woke up, and I think, there's all ways of thinking, well, yes, I was an only child. I didn't have siblings to pattern after. I had a very close family bond and all these things. But I'm very happy with my childhood. I have no regrets of not having siblings and all these other things. And there's ways to analyze, but I think for every person, there's a point in life where that light bulb just kicks on. And for me, it took to that point, and I just had this excitement about experiencing new things and a drive to be the best that I could in whatever I was doing.
Over the years, you've lived this dynamic life. You've now written about it in the book. Do you ever feel yourself not being passionate, Carey? And if so, what does that look or feel like? And how do you pull yourself out of it?
We are all human, and we all have good and bad days in our own mind that can change in a moment. And what I've learned is that when I am not feeling the way that I want to feel, if I feel sluggish, I'm probably sitting down doing nothing if that's the case. And, for all the people that do without naming brands, but all the energy drinks and all those things, I don't see the need for that. And I make an immediate change. And I've learned to realize that if I need energy, I'm going to get up, I'm going to move around, I'm going to exercise. I can guarantee you anyone who's not feeling energy, if they're just sitting down or if they're at a very comfortable heart rate, if they do some jumping jacks, if they do some push-ups, just give it a minute of excitement, run around your office, just do something. You will have the energy. You don't need the supplements. You don't need the energy drinks. So, I've found that one of the things I touched in my book is the 5-minute rule, which I'm sure we'll touch on. But one of those things is whatever you're experiencing in a negative way, any outside influences, once you identify it, give it 5 minutes and move on. There's nothing you can do to change what has just happened. So whether it's a negative perspective about something, whether it's a tragedy, if you don't get yourself out of that funk, if you don't get yourself out of that negative mode, then there's no possible way to address the challenges and solve problems in that mindset. So a lot of this is positive mental attitude, and that's something that I learned, and I'll credit wrestling to that, because that's something that the sport of wrestling teaches, and it's a mindset. So with a positive mental attitude, you can achieve many, many things, and you can overcome those negative days or those bad feelings or the insignificant thoughts that people might have on a daily basis. You really have to have that positive mindset and keep focusing on it, keep nurturing it, keep doing your affirmations, whatever it takes. And everyone has different process to work with. But I think whatever works for each person, they need to step out of the comfort zone to really live life in the moment.
Do you do cold showers?
That works too.
I found cold showers this past year. So I was listening to Sean Stevenson's podcast, and he was talking about, switching from hot to cold in the shower. And so that next morning I tried that, and I was paying attention to how I felt looking at my face in the mirror when I jumped out of the shower. And I was lit up, man. Nothing that would get your heart pumping like an ice cold shower. And I found out that
or an ice bath.
Quite a few people do this, right? Yeah, quite a few people do this. And so now, even when in the morning when it's cooler, it's moving towards wintertime right now as we record this, and it's at the moment when I first think of it, I'm less excited to do the super cold shower, but I remember how I feel when I'm done, and I'm like, do I want to have more energy? And the answer is yes. So I turn on that ice cold and I count to 10, and dude, I'm like, woohoo! I'm screaming. It's great. I think
it's all about how it ends up. It's not. It takes mind over matter. Just jump in. You can talk about it. Just jump in, do it, and then the experience is there.
That's it. Yeah. A lot of times it's just saying yes. Are you a fan of the movie Yes Man, Jim Carrey? Have you seen that?
A while back.
Oh man, that is so great. That's a classic. If you're listening and you haven't seen it, you got to go watch that. It's actually really good. It's a really good movie. So Carey, I want to keep talking about the book here because again, this is one of your greatest contributions as of late to the world. And the book is Living Life with Passion, Live Life with Passion and Helping Others, right?
Right. Living Life with Passion and Helping Others.
One of the things that I think is so great about this, and I want to compliment you right now, is that during your launch of the book, I noticed that you were posting on Facebook pictures of you doing, it was a clothing and food drive.
We just did this last Saturday. Yes.
Yeah. And here's what I thought was so perfect. I said, here Carey is launching his book. And I go, I say to myself, I go, if I'm launching a book, would I have time for the food drive? And I questioned that in my own life because I'm like, really launching a book is really hard work. And there's a lot that goes into that. And it's really timely. And yet what's so perfect about you, Carey, is that you're in the middle of launching this book, but yet you're doing this this charitable event, which is perfect because part of the book is about helping others. And you write about all the different ways that you've been inspired by people that are helping others, living with a purpose, and the way that you've done that in different areas of your life, including Front Row Foundation. But I will tell you that that was the greatest demonstration of what you wrote about. And that's why when I talk about you, man, I talk about how you walk the talk. And that's what's really great about you is that you're authentic. A woman, Teresa de Grosbois, who I interviewed on this podcast, said authenticity is when your insides match your outsides. You know, that what you're thinking about and feeling on the inside is how you're acting on the outside. And I think what's great is that for you, that it's not just something that you talk about on the outside, but it's something you're processing internally that's driving your world. And it's very congruent. And I just want to compliment you and say thank you for walking the talk.
I appreciate that, John. It means a lot coming from you.
Well, dude, I've seen you do it for over a decade now in lots of different ways. Let me ask you a question about let me go back to the book here again and just say, what do you think, Carey, could be the most important part of that book? If you were to pick out a story or a principle or an idea that you think has potential, either by feedback that you've gotten or that your heart tells you so, what's one of your favorite parts of the book?
I think that the core of the book, although it takes the reader on a journey through different parts of my life and my perspectives on life and ways to find passion, create passion, identify negativity and remove it from your life, I think the bottom line is that the underlying thought is you need a goal. Without a goal, you're really just passing through life like an observer. And to me, goals are passion-driven. And I think, again, going back to our own mortality, we're only here for such a short amount of time in the scheme of things that anything you do should be something that you thoroughly enjoy. Now, keep in mind, we all have great days, good days, not so great days, and we all have situations like that. But I think a lot of the points that I touch on in the book are adjusting your perspective. Every day doesn't have to be rainbows and sunshine. You can have a great day and it's gloomy and it's dark and it's just your perspective. And I think that the points that are, to me, most important in affecting other people are for people to realize that no matter where you are in life, no matter what your role in life is, you can live the life of your dreams. You can live a life filled with passion, fulfillment, and it's all in a shift of your perspective and what's important. And I get into all types of things that lead up to that. And I'm a big proponent of old school rules. And sometimes
I love that part.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I love that part of the book.
And it really is something that becomes a lost art. And I remember my grandparents talking about things in the old days and my parents talking about things when they were young. And I sound like I'm 100 years old when I say that. But again, I think when you get to your late 30s, early 40s, you're realizing your parents knew a thing or two. They were spot on perspectives, and you start realizing those things. And those are things like honor, respect, etiquette, reputation, chivalry, commitment, forgiveness, being memorable and not just going through life without making a difference. And I think that there's just so many lessons to glean from the book that at the core, it really starts with passion, because everyone has a passion in their life. They may not have identified it. They may be covering it up because they feel they can't get to it. It's not the right time. But then my question is, when is the right time?
Mm. I like this idea of old school thoughts. So here's a fun question, Carey. How many thoughts do you think that we have that are original, that are purely our own? And how many are just thoughts that we've taken from others and kind of spit back out maybe with our own spin on it?
Yeah.
No, does that make sense, right? Especially as an artist or an author, it's like sometimes I think to myself, do I have any original thoughts? I mean, I don't, at this point, I don't know what's mine or what I got from somebody. And sometimes if I don't give credit to somebody, it's not even because I don't want to, it's because I don't remember where I got that, or I totally forgot. That, you know, like I used to have friends that we'd laugh about this. Like somebody would say something and I might have even heard it unconsciously, subconsciously, right? And then later I'll throw it out as my own idea. And they're like, yeah, we just said that like 30 minutes ago. I'm like, I swear I didn't hear it. But maybe my subconscious heard it.
Exactly. And the whole point to that is our thoughts could be a collective of all of our experiences, and our experiences or observations, both visually, through hearing, through emotion, through touch. So are any thoughts truly original, seeing that we're sharing our space on this earth with everyone else and we're interacting? So even someone's suggestion to a thought or an image we see could redirect a thought that we have. So I think it's an amazing collective. And until the matrix comes to life where you just plug in, and it's automatically a collective of information, I think we're all having our own unique experience and our own perception of life. But there are truly authentic thoughts. However, it's just a matter of interpretation and, in my opinion, how we retell a story in our own words.
That's really great. What is the story, Carey, that you want your children to tell about you when it's all over?
Another compliment to your great questions. The story, if I were to sum it down, would be that I lived my life with passion, that I was fearless in going after anything I wanted out of life, success or failure, and that I didn't waste time dwelling in the past, that I focused on being present as much as possible and was excited about the future. And through that entire journey, was able to marry the woman of my dreams, have amazing children, have my daughter become married to an amazing guy, and see that process continue. And ideally, have inspired in my children, which I know I see every day as well, their quest and their desire for living their lives with passion and not wasting their time doing things that they don't want to be doing.
Carey, again, congruent, man. Your book on page 91 says, you quote Charles Darwin, "A man who dares to waste 1 hour of time has not discovered the value of life." And I think that, you know, that's something I see about you. And I hear you say it. I read it in your book, and I feel that you don't want to waste time. You respect the time that you've been given here. And it's why mortality comes up, because you have such respect for time. And didn't you star in a film, by the way, about time?
I did.
One more thing I had to throw in there.
That was crazy. I decided to get back into acting a number of years ago after a long hiatus, and the first lead role was in a movie called Boycotting Time, and it was amazing. It was reflecting on mortality, and there's some great scenes in it that I'm very proud of, and it was a great way to get back into my acting career as well.
I see a theme here, man, with time. I see a theme. Carey, let's talk a little bit. I want to talk more about your kids and you being a dad, because not only do we have people listening to the show that are parents that would greatly appreciate these conversations, but life, as you and I both believe, that we're dads first and everything else second. You know, that's really why we're here. And that a lot of what we do is to show our children how we can become the best version of ourselves, to demonstrate and lead by example, to help include them in experiences that will help shape their destinies. What do you think Now I'm going to ask this because your kids are grown well, they're out of the house. They're grown and out or going out. But one question that is what one experience do you think was one that you're so proud that you created for your kids? And maybe that's the same experience you would recommend to parents. But the second part of this question is, for people listening, what experience do you think that everybody should create for their children?
To lead by example. I think it's important to have experiences, and experiences will nurture a message. They'll sustain the love of what you're doing within these experiences. But I don't think it's just one experience. I mean, we've done many, many things, and there's so many things I'm proud that we've done. And for each of my children, whether for my son, it was the father-son fishing trips that we did when he was much younger, whether it was even going down to when he was 5 years old. I took him to Lopez Island to visit his uncle Michael, who was living out there at the time. He's passed away since, but he was a brilliant musician, and it was something that we experienced life on that island in his own splendor there, and that was something that Blake will cherish for the rest of his life as one of our first trips out there. And then our experience all the way to when he was 21, and we did an adrenaline-filled trip to Costa Rica, and really, as adults, experience those things.
By the way, Carey, that was great reading about Blake's take on that trip in your book. That was really special, and it got me thinking about, my kids are much younger, of course, but it got me thinking about things that I will then do with Tiger, that one day he'll be able to write some of those very kind words about his dad, maybe. And so, that was inspiring.
I appreciate that. I did not know his full take on that until he submitted that piece of work to me. And for the reader, there was a point on the Careys River, for our listeners at least, there's a point on the Careys River where we got knocked out of the raft, and it was class 4 and 3 rapids. And I didn't know that he knew I told people to grab him before me. And this was a very emotional time when I read what he wrote to include in the book, and it was a very cool experience, and it for all of us that have children, we know every child is different, and my daughter thinks and acts so much like me, and there's so many life lessons I've had with her and experiences that when it came to her actual wedding, and I wrote the song for her, and we experienced that time together, it was really a culmination of our whole relationship. It was just, I see so much of the common sense and the practicality, not that I have an overabundance of that, but I see so much of that, what I do have in her, exponentially higher. And it's, your children each have things that they remember, that they glean. So I think overall in life experiences, it's what we share, how we act in desperate times, how we lead by example, and the things that I'll give you a reverse answer. We talked about the Warm Clothing Giving Hearts Drive that we do every year with my company, and that was inspired by my wife and I taking our young children through the underground in Chicago after a game, coming back, and them wanting to make a difference as well. And that started us feeding and bringing clothes to the homeless, which turned into this annual event. So life lessons go both ways. And something that I touch about in the book, there's so many children that don't appreciate the true talent and the qualities their parents have until later in life. And the same way, there's a lot of adults that don't nourish relationships with younger generations because they can't even fathom what they would have in common. And if everyone would realize there's so much to learn, it doesn't matter what the age is. It's life experience and an overall passion for living life to its fullest that everyone can learn from each other. And that's one of the things that I think my kids have gleaned, and I know that they've both seen firsthand my attitudes against excuses, my respect for time, my passion for living life to its fullest, and anything that I do in life, I do to the best of my ability because it's my name, it's my word, it's my bond. So I think those are all the things that, as a parent, you want your children to learn from. And I happen to be very fortunate to have an amazing wife who has the same desire of living life to its potential and to do things on her own and inspire others. And I'm very fortunate.
Yes, and it's great that you recognize that, buddy. So cool. Carey, we're running out of time here, man. There's a billion things that I want to talk to you about. I got so many questions. Hard to pick the final ones here, but let me ask you this. I think you're so confident, Carey, and you operate in a way that I know isn't without fear, but I think you move past fear. And you do it because you want the reward more than you're taken by fear. And one of the things I see constantly is people's fear of being judged by others. They don't want to put a book out there because they're afraid that they'll be judged by people. I know these feelings because I experience them myself. So for you, how do we teach others to move past fear and be confident and courageous in their lives? How do we help our listeners do that? What's something they can do today? What's an actionable, item for them, a step they can take?
Well, one thing that I touch about in the book is a no excuses mindset. And I truly believe that whatever we decide to do in life is really up to us. We can decide how someone else's words affect us. We can decide whether we're going to do something for the first time or not. And I think the call to action would be, if there's something that you are afraid of, face those fears. I'm not saying to do something irresponsible. However, fear is a mental block that holds us back from many things. And there comes a point in life where you realize no one should have control over your own thoughts other than you. So why are you allowing other people's thought process prevent you from doing what you truly want to do? And if you feel like writing a book, write a book, get your message out. And if there's people who are going to criticize, if there's people that are going to be naysayers, then fine, then maybe that book's not for them, but there's millions of people out there that the book would be for. You're never going to please everybody. And I learned that early in life with my business and everything else. You always want to please everybody, but it's more important that the end of the day, that you are living a life of integrity, that you did whatever job it was, you did that to the best of your ability, that you can never say, I wish I would have done this better. So all this starts from the positive mental attitude. And again, there's calls to actions such as daily affirmations, talking about things that you're grateful for. There's having time alone to focus your goals. And a lot of this is your circle of influence. Who are you spending the most time with? And if you're spending your time with people that are negative people and bringing you down, and they're not supporting your goals and your dreams, then maybe it's time to look at another circle of a group of people that are inspiring you and are supporting you. So it really comes from within. And this is something that takes daily practice. And it's really something that if you want to do something, go ahead and do it. The great thing about fear is, for me, it's an adrenaline rush. The first time I jumped out of a airplane, that was crazy. But then that first moment while you're free falling and you're experiencing all this, it's awe-inspiring. And I think that's like anything else. Once you take the leap, you're in the moment. Otherwise, you're just talking about it. And it's that kind of a call to action, to have a positive mental attitude about the things that you're doing, to not let other people's negativity, and I have an area in the book called Be Negativity. Don't let other people's negativity infiltrate your perspective on what you want to do. And it's really being in touch with yourself and having the self-confidence to know that you can live the life of your dreams. You have passions out there, and if there's something you want to do, you should never let anyone stop you from doing it.
Mm. You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Carey Smolensky.
This was awesome, John.
Bringing wisdom. Hey, listen, buddy. I want to give you some fun final questions here. The challenge for you as we wrap up today's interview is to answer the following questions in either one word or one sentence only. I know it's a challenge, but are you ready for this?
I am ready.
All right, man. So here's some fun. Some of these are silly. Some of them are good. You pick. But here we go. One word, one sentence answers. If you had to pick one person to switch brains with for a day, who would it be and why?
Albert Einstein.
And why?
Reason would be to experience his view on life, knowledge, and perception.
Beautiful. When you go to a grocery store, what are 3 items you never leave without?
Wow. Never is a strong word.
That's true. What are 3 items that you always you would often like to carry out with you?
Bananas, sushi, and coconut water.
Nice. Very good. All right, you're going to like this question. How do you define legacy?
Wow. I touch on it in the book, but I believe it's sharing everything you've learned, not what you've earned, and bequeathing values over valuables.
Great. When was the last time you did something for the first time?
I think I tend to find actions that I've even done in the past in a new way.
Yes.
So I'm trying to think of skydiving is something that comes to mind, but more than a specific item, I think that I look at experiences and I try to experience them in a new way each time to get a fresh perspective.
That's so cool. I'm so glad you said that because this week's 4-minute in the front row video, Carey, is about firsts. And one of the things that I recognized for myself personally was that in celebrating or recognizing firsts in our life, and you talk about this in your book, you actually talk about one of our recipients and that there was a bunch of firsts for that individual. Was it Rockstar Mike?
It was.
And it was his first flight. It was his first time.
First view of the ocean.
First view of the ocean. And those are really great moments. The other thing, though, is that when we have firsts, we can experience them differently. Like if you ran a mile for the first time, the next time you run a mile, you might run it, faster. It might be a different experience a first time that you ran it in 9 minutes or a first time you ran it in 8 minutes or the first time you ran it with the lowest heartbeat, to date. So there's lots of different ways to view firsts in our lives. You could even say, this was the first time we've celebrated our 10-year anniversary, et cetera. But anyway, I appreciate you playing along with the question. So,
I think on a tangent to that, I think sometimes getting caught up in what is the first sometimes can take away from the overall experience of it, because there's so many things we all experience, and it's our perception that falls into play as well.
Yeah, that's it. It's perception is reality, no doubt. All right, last question, Carey. If you could be front row to any event anywhere in the world, and this would have to be a band, a team, or somebody performing now, you could go see this event, who would it be?
It has to be in real life now. It can't be someone that's...
Yeah, it's not Elvis,
Well, it definitely wouldn't have been Elvis. First, single ones are tough for me. There's so much I would want to experience. I would say on a inspiration level, Tony Robbins is up there.
Awesome. Dude, we should make that happen for you one day.
I think, I think it again, we're into so many categories. Music, I love just about everything. And I think, again, you with your great questions, that's a testament to you.
Awesome, man. Well, something to think about today. Carey, we appreciate your time, man. This has been so awesome. Where do people find you? Where do they find the book? How do they track down more Carey Smolensky?
Well, I have information on my website, which is careyspassion.com, Careys passion, passion.com. And the book, Living Life with Passion and Helping Others, is on Amazon and digital media streams. And there's a link on my site, and there's a way to email me, and I am out there.
Excellent. And Carey, we'll also link to your stuff from the show notes at frontrowfactor.com. Carey, I want to tell everybody, and I want to tell you, man, that first of all, thanks for being a kind, caring, authentic leader that I am very grateful that you are helping shape the world that my boys get to grow up in. I want to thank you for being present in your life. You're somebody that whenever we're hanging out, wherever we are, and usually when we're hanging out, it is not at your house. It's not at my house. It is somewhere in the world that we are together hanging out. We have definitely spent more time in other cities than in our own. But I will tell you that you're always great to grab the camera and make sure we capture the moment. You're one of the best at that in the world. And it reminds me of how present you are and how appreciative you are, how grateful you are for those experiences in your life. You are somebody that is really willing to play the game. You put your family first. You're somebody that definitely is showing a way to live life that is enjoyable, it is meaningful, it's filled with purpose. You work really hard at this, and that is something that people, I know for myself at least, are going to be talking about for years and years to come. Your legacy is strong, man. You have really made a place for yourself here in this world. You've made an impact and on so many lives. I thank you for that, buddy. I look forward to many more years ahead of being in the front row with you. Can't wait to go to Tony Robbins' front row with you. We're going to have a great time, man. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much, John. Love you, brother.
All right. Love you too, man. See ya.
Thanks again for listening today. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Carey. I love this guy, and I was so excited to share his story with you. Pick up his book on Amazon. It's Living Life with Passion and Helping Others. You can also get it direct on his site, careyspassion.com, Careys passion.com. Carey's encore episode is coming out in just a couple of days. That's questions that we ask Carey from you, the community. So how do you get to ask those questions? Go to frontrowfriends.com, post your questions there, and we'll ask them for you. Pretty cool. A way for you to be involved. Also want to thank you for your ratings and reviews of the show. It means the world to us. I love reading them. And if you haven't done so yet and you're an iTunes user, go to frontrowfactor.com/review and you can share your thoughts there. We deeply appreciate it. Also, we send out a weekly email, and if you're not on this, you definitely want to be on it. A lot of people are digging it. It's 4 minutes in the front row. It's a video from me. I give some great teaching points. I even give some downloadable documents from time to time to support you in living life in the front row. It's my best stuff given to you for free every week in just 4 minutes in your inbox. It'll show up each Monday, and I hope it kicks off a great week for you. That's it for today, everybody. Thanks so much. Can't wait to be back with you again next time. Until we talk again, live your life in the front row. Take care.
That's all for this episode of The Front Row Factor. To discover more simple and effective ways to lead a fearless front row life, please visit frontrowfactor.com and subscribe to John's 4 Minutes in the Front Row, where he shares quick stories from real-life experiences. Thanks again for joining us today. We hope our show inspires you to live big, give big, and experience life to the fullest. See you next time on The Front Row Factor.